Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Bitcoin market review for September 23rd, 2022. And before we get into the setups, I wanna again show you the economic calendar for Friday, September 23rd. And as you can see, there are two high impact news events for US dollar. First one was at 9:45 a.m. and the second one was at 2 p.m. And if we go to the charts, we see at 9:45 a.m. we had quite a big downwards candle. That's the impact of the high impact news event. And then at 2 p.m. we had also like quite a big candle. And we're gonna keep that in mind when we look at the price action on a lower time frame. So 9:45 a.m. and 2 p.m. were the times where we had high impact news events for US dollar. And with that, I would say we jump right into the lower time frames and look for setups. And I mean, in general, yesterday's price action was all the way down, down, down into this area where they were like, I mean, here's a fair value gap below this low. Price took out this low, went into this fair value gap, and then it went back up to the daily open. The daily open is based on New York time. And the first setup is right here on the 5 minute. It's well visible on the 5 minute. And we have this move down. So we draw out the fib tool from the high to the low. And we also gonna draw out the fair value gap right here. Let me put that on. There. Fair value gap in a discount, price moves up. If we put the cursor here, we see it respects this order block very nicely. So if I even zoom in a little bit more, you can see the line of the cursor fits perfectly between those. So that's a perfect line. Price respects this order block very nicely and then starts to sell off, to go down. And it did that. This low is, did it break that low? Yeah, it broke that low. So it broke that low. Here is a fair value gap down below, which was the target for this one. No, I think it took out this low as well. So the target for this short down would have been first up this small fair value gap, and second the liquidity below this low, which was taking. And from this we go to the next setup, which is exactly next to it, which is actually even a better setup. Like, it's even cleaner. So from this high to this low, we see price move back up into a discount, going into this fair value gap, nearly completely filling it. And again, we put the cursor here, like this is the order block, this candle, and watch what happens. Price reacted perfectly off the order block. It respected the order block perfectly. You can even zoom in more so you can see it better. Perfect line from the bottom of this candle, which is the order block, and the top of these candles perfectly respects that. So that's very nice to see. So we again have price moving down quickly, leaving a fair value gap behind. Price moves back up into this fair value gap. Price is in a discount, respecting the order block perfectly, and then it starts to sell off again. With the targets for this being, I mean, we broke this low. Right next to it is another low, which got taken, and another low, which got taken. And there's probably, or there might be a fair value gap on a lower time frame here. Yeah, on the 3-minute you can see there is a fair value gap right here, and let's see if this got attacked. like if price moved there, but I think it did. Yeah, it did. It did. So go back up to the 5 minute so you guys can see it a little bit better. Enter the trade up here, targets for this first low, second low, and then the fair value gap. And after this, price moves back up again. And actually, I think we can look at that on a higher time frame because that's the next trade. So there's 3 setups right next to each other. First one, second one is the one we just looked at, and then the third one, which, you know, sell off, fair value gap, price moves back up. And I think it's also visible on the 15 minutes, so we want to look at it on the 15 minute. Because if we can, we want to take the higher time frame. So from this is the high to this low, we see price reach the discount, price fully filled the fair value gap, respected this candle, which is the order block on the 15 minute. You see this candle touches this candle but doesn't move through it, and then after that we have the sell-off, like with the 9:30 open and then the 9:45 high impact news events. And with this we attacked this low, which is quite a nice low if you look at it. Like this is I'm gonna say a bigger low, and you can expect more liquidity to be below this because it's quite an obvious low. So it attacked that. Further, it attacked this low, and it even attacked this fair value gap, which was, for this move, this was my final target. I posted that on Twitter as soon as I didn't enter it here or anything because I don't like to trade high impact news events or prior to high impact news events, so I didn't paper trade it or anything. I just watched. I'm still just learning, and I say you should do the same thing. Just watch the trades happening and journal them. Just learn, just study. That's the most important thing you can do. Just gotta study. And yeah, as you can see, price moved down, took out this low, and then eventually fully filled the fair value gap in. Very clean trade, very nice trade, and also a trade on a 15 minute, which we haven't had too many of. I mean, you can look at it on a 5 minute. It's also very clean on a 5 minute. It does exactly the same thing. But as I said, if you can look at it on a high time frame, it's always nice to do that. So I mean, the highest time frame for trade setups that I use to do journal is the 15 minute. I mean, you could go to the 1 hourly chart or like the 4 hourly chart or daily chart if you want to do that. But I only focus on like intraday movements, and therefore I only journal like 15 minute and lower time frames. Okay, with that said, we go to the next setup, which was after the move down. You can see, I mean, you more or less can see the setup right here. Price started to move back up, downs one more, and then went further up. And this down move is where we can find an entry. So on the 3 minute, it's better visible. Sorry about that. My English is not on point right now. Okay, so we have this high, price moves down lower once more and then breaks it, leading to a market structure break. So let me use this market structure break. If that up move, price moves back down. I mean, you could have traded that move, but if you pull it from the low to the high, the fib tool, it didn't reach a discount. So that's why, for me, it's not a valid setup. So I'm not going to journal that. But price moves up and then eventually comes back down into the fair value gap, which was left behind here. out. Price eventually comes back down. With this, price reaches a discount, and from that it sells off and goes into this fair value gap up here, which was the target for this trade. And so it is better visible. We go to the 1 minute chart, because then you can see like what price reacted off of. I mean, first we have this order block, this downward closed candle, which price respects beautifully again. And on the 1 minute, it's more apparent like which fair value gaps price reached and reacted off of. Oh, come on, let me draw that out. Ooh, that's a tight one. I need to zoom in a little bit more. Yes, first fair value gap. And it even reached down into the lower fair value gap. As you can see, price just touched it prior to reversing and moving back up. And yeah, that's a nice trade. We go back to the 3 minute. So it's always, if you see a trade setup on a time frame, for example now the 3 minute forming, always go to the lower the next lower time frame and look if it gets a little bit clearer. Because with this, on the 3 minute it's a valid setup. You have the fair value gap here, price goes through it and then moves back up. But if you move to the 1 minute chart, you actually see why price moved all the way down there. It did that because there was a fair value gap, and further it reacted off of this order block beautifully. So always keep in mind there are other time frames you can look at. Not only focus on one time frame. So let's say you really like the 5 minute and you see a setup forming on a 5 minute. It's maybe a little bit iffy in a 5 minute, not too nice, not too clean. Always go to, for example, a 3 minute and 1 minute to confirm the setup, to look if it maybe is better visible on a lower time frame, and then you choose which time frame you want to journal it on. So yeah, always use the time frame where you see the setup the clearest. So where you feel like, okay, that's a very clear setup, a very clean setup, use that time frame. For me, for example, right here it's the 1 minute. I think this setup is cleaner on the 1 minute than it is on the 3 minute. Therefore, I journaled it on the 1 minute. But it's up to you which time frame you want to use. And yeah, that's that setup done. Beautiful setup. I really like this one. Very clean, and yeah, just a quick one, a very quick one. The 1 minute ones are usually very quick. And with quick I mean very quick from entry to exit. So next one is a little bit longer one, and it's on the 5 minute. And here we have the 2 p.m. high impact news event. The Fed Chair Powell speaks at 2 p.m., which was exactly that. You can see it's, oh, let me go to the 1 minute. Let me go to the 1 minute. Where is 2 p.m.? Yeah. You see at 2 p.m. price starts to move, like there's liquidity in there. Because if you look, okay, smaller candles, smaller candles, smaller candles, and then all of a sudden there are bigger candles, and price moves up, down, shoots up, and then eventually breaks down again. So that's what high impact news events do. They just infuse liquidity into the market and make it go crazy a bit. So it's always good to wait a bit for price to settle. And we have one setup here which actually took quite a while to form. If we actually wait, yeah, it is a setup. Sorry, I'm just confirming if it's actually a good setup to show. It is a setup. Yeah. Okay. It's worth showing. It's definitely worth showing. It's not very clean, but it's definitely worth showing. So we had this run up right here, which broke a couple of highs, and therefore we can say we are shifting market structure. Like we have this high broken, not this high broken, which would have been very nice if we would have broken that. But nevertheless, we still have a market structure shift. And we also have a fair value gap on the 5 minute. Okay, I gotta zoom in there so I can draw that out. And what you can see here is, I mean, this is right around the news event, and then price starts to consolidate a bit. So it moves up, down, not very clean price action. But it's all in an area where we can enter. Like we have this move up and then the move back down into a discount. It fills the fair value gap and then it moves about in here. Like it doesn't really make a higher high or a lower low. It just moves about, it consolidates, it goes sideways. And then prior to breaking out, moves above this high and then eventually starts to go higher to attack all these imbalances which were left up on the left side. And on the 5 minute, as I said, it's not very clean. You can see, okay, there's a fair value gap it reacts off of. But if we go to the 1 minute, we actually can see it's a little bit cleaner as it seems on the 5 minute. So same setup, as you can see, price just starts to go sideways here, like after the news event, and it takes some time until it settles and continues its move upwards. So we have a fair value gap right here, and this is the fair value gap price reacts off of. I mean, it dips into it one time, another time, and then fully fills it right here. And what's more, you can see price respects this order block right here quite nicely. I mean, it touches it here just barely, and then the body of this candle goes all the way down, but respects this candle very nicely. So on the 1 minute it's better visible, like where price reacts off of, and it's this fair value gap right here. And if we go back up to the 5 minute, it's not that nicely visible because there is a smaller fair value gap in here, which is a little bit higher, and the 1 minute chart justifies this move down, as this move down is actually just like the fill of this fair value gap, and that's why price dipped into that once more, a little bit lower, prior to then going up and attacking all the liquidity targets, which is first one, this high. There is liquidity above this, not liquidity below, liquidity above. There we go. Okay, we also have a fair value gap right here, just above that. There's probably some fair value gaps on lower time frames here, but I'm not gonna bother about these right now. And not fair value gap, I wanna draw out some highs. Price then attacks all these highs right here. Goes for all these swing highs. And yeah, there's some more left to this side. I'm not gonna draw them out right now. But yeah, the first main target is this high and the fair value gap above this, and then this high, which is quite a significant one. And as I said, it took quite a while to play out, because I mean, it stayed in here in a discount for, how long is that? Like nearly 2 hours, or let's say 2 hours. Quite a long time. But as I said, like news dropped here. I mean, first this was after lunch, and then news events drop, and yeah, price goes sideways for a bit. So always keep in mind, after high impact news, price can be a little bit, yeah, iffy and not too clean. But yeah, that's just what high impact news events do to the market. And with that, I think we have we have all the setups I want to show. And I just want to point out one more setup, but it's a late setup. It's after 8 p.m. and it's this sell-off right here. I mean, first one, or like we are in a downtrend, like with the first one, price goes stays, consolidates a bit, goes sideways, and then sells off one more time. And it doesn't break this low, so that's the only thing why this is a somewhat, or like a tradable setup, or a journalable. Can you say that? I don't know. It's a setup you can journal because, yeah, I want to use that. As you can see, this low did not break that low. And we can be sure that there is liquidity below this low because, I mean, it's first up, it's a swing low. Second, there is quite a big fair value gap below it. And as we've seen throughout the last couple of days, if price comes very close to such a liquidity target, it's very likely to take this target. So it comes very close to this swing low where a huge fair value gap sits below, so it's very probable the price is gonna move into that. And therefore this is a trade you can journal and a trade I'm journaling, because it is just, yeah, price is so close to liquidity target, so it's very likely to run it. So we're gonna mark it up. Fib tool, we see price goes all the way into a discount, fills this fair value gap or nearly fills it. I think this candle just nearly fills it. And then after this it sells off, breaks this low and fully fills this fair value gap. So that's just a nice quick setup on the 1 minute at like 8:30 p.m. But still, it's a very clean setup, and I personally really like when price just moves very close to liquidity target and shows a very nice setup very close to liquidity target, because these are very high probability setups. At least that's what I found out for myself, and I really like to study these setups, to journal these setups, as they're just very clean. Price nearly gets to the liquidity target, moves back up, fills the fair value gap, goes into a discount, and then sells off and takes the liquidity target. And after this point, price just goes sideways a bit. So usual evening movement, not too much to do. And with that, we have journaled all the setups that I found, all the good setups, all the setups I want to show you. And yeah, now it's the weekend. The next 2 days or at least I'm not gonna look for any setups, because weekends are just, yeah, they're a bit weird. Price action is not too clean, so you can't rely on it, and that's why I don't journal the weekends. Like, I sometimes look at the price action a little bit. I usually review them myself in the evening, just look what price did. But usually Saturdays are very slow. Often it just goes sideways a bit, not a lot of liquidity. And Sundays, usually there's a move happening in the evening. But as I said, weekend price action is not too clean, and I'm not looking at it. So yeah, I suggest you can look at it, but you don't need to journal it, as setups are usually not too clean on weekends for crypto. But yeah, that's all from my side. And as I said, yeah, next 2 days there's not gonna be a video, as I'm not reviewing the weekend or the weekend price action. I'm not journaling it. And yeah, that's all from my side. I hope you have a good day. I wish you a great weekend. Use the weekend, utilize it, study the previous week's price action, or this week's price action on the weekend. And yeah, I hope I see you again and be safe. Bye.